My world stopped the moment I heard my little girl scream. It was a sharp, cracking sound, the kind that punches straight into a parent's chest. I sprinted across the neighborhood lawn, my heart slamming like a hammer, and then I froze. There she was, my 10-year-old daughter lying on the grass, her tiny arm twisted at an angle no child's arm should ever bend. And standing over her was Karen, HOA Karen, holding a baseball bat, her chest heaving, her eyes wild, like she had won some sick victory. Children were crying, neighbors were shouting, and my daughter whispered, "Daddy, she hit me." Karen pointed the bat at me next and hissed. She broke the HOA lawn rules. Kids like her don't belong here. She had no idea who she was talking to. She had no idea I'm the county sheriff, and that this moment would end her entire world. Before we dive in, I want to ask you something real quick. Which city are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. And hey, before the story begins, make sure you hit that subscribe button because the story you're about to hear is one every parent in America needs to know. All right, let's begin. My daughter, Emily, is 10 years old, small, gentle, and the sweetest soul you could ever meet. She's the kind of kid who helps stray cats, gives her lunch to classmates who forget theirs, and says thank you even when she's hurting. She has never broken a rule in her life, which is exactly why what happened that afternoon shattered me in a way nothing else ever has. When we moved into this HOA neighborhood, we expected normal things: trimmed lawns, community events, safe sidewalks. What we didn't expect was Karen, the woman who believed she ran the entire subdivision. The woman who handed out fines for chalk drawings, threatened kids for riding bikes too close to her driveway, and treated every neighbor like they lived under her rule. But I always kept my distance. I ignored the drama. I kept things professional. Until the day I heard my daughter scream. A scream so sharp it cut straight through the quiet afternoon. A scream that froze my breath. When I ran outside and saw her on the grass, arm twisted, eyes wide with pain, and Karen standing over her holding a baseball bat, something inside me broke. She didn't just cross a line. She smashed through it. And the worst part, she had no idea I'm the county sheriff. No idea who she just attacked. No idea how fast justice was coming. It was one of those calm, slow afternoons where nothing feels urgent. The sun was warm but soft, the kind of warmth that makes you want to sit on the porch with a cold drink and let time drift. Emily had just come home from school, dropped her backpack by the door, and asked if she could play in the front yard for a few minutes. She loved that little patch of grass, not because it was special, but because she felt safe there, close to home, close to me. I told her, "Yeah, baby, go ahead. Stay where I can see you." She nodded with that sweet little smile she always gave before running off. I stepped inside to grab a glass of water, maybe 10 seconds, 15 at most, and then I heard it. A scream. Not a startled scream, not a playful shout. A pain scream. Sharp. Terrified. The kind of scream that rips something out of a parent's soul. I dropped the glass right there on the kitchen tile and bolted toward the yard. And then I saw it. Emily was on the ground, clutching her arm, her face white with shock. Her elbow looked twisted, wrong, bent at an angle that made my stomach drop. She was gasping, that shaky, panicked kind of breathing a child does when the pain is too big to understand. Standing over her, gripping a baseball bat like she was blocking home plate, was Karen, HOA Karen, the woman who wrote notes about the color of our mailbox. The woman who counted how many minutes kids stayed in the pool. The woman who once tried to fine an 8-year-old for blowing bubbles on the sidewalk. Her chest was rising and falling fast. Her knuckles were white on the bat. And worst of all, she wasn't sorry. Neighbors were frozen on their porches. A couple stood on the sidewalk, whispering in shock. Kids had stopped mid-bike ride, their eyes wide like they were witnessing a horror movie happening right in front of them. I ran to Emily and dropped to my knees. "Emily, baby, look at me. Are you okay? What happened?" She tried to speak through sobs. "D-Daddy, as she hit me." My blood froze. Not boiled, not spiked. Froze. That kind of cold rage that only comes to a parent when their child is hurt. I turned my head slowly at Karen. What did you do? But Karen didn't flinch. She didn't look guilty. She didn't even look confused. Instead, she jabbed the bat in my direction like I was the problem. She was hitting the HOA flowers. Karen snapped. I warned her not to touch them. I told her there would be consequences. I looked at the flower bed. A single petal was on the ground from a bush that grows petals like confetti. That was her justification. You broke my daughter's arm over petal? I said, my voice shaking. Karen scoffed. Rules are rules. If you people can't control your children, then I have to step in. This neighborhood has standards. This is a child, I said, my voice low. She's 10. She's a rule breaker, Karen barked. And I don't care whose kid she is. You should be thanking me for keeping order around here. Behind me, Emily whimpered as she tried to adjust her arm. The sound tore through me. I stood, slowly, deliberately. I didn't yell. I didn't roar. I didn't lunge at her. But something in my posture, something in the way I stepped forward, made 3 neighbors hold their breath at once. You assaulted a minor, I said, with a weapon. It's a community enforcement tool, Karen spat. And if you think you can intimidate me with your little sheriff attitude... She stopped, because it clicked. Her eyes darted to my belt, where my badge was clipped. Not hidden, not displayed on purpose. Just there. The shifting of her expression was instant. Confidence, to confusion, to dread. You, she whispered. I'm the county sheriff, I finished for her. And you just broke my daughter's arm. She swallowed hard. The bat lowered an inch, just one, but fear flickered across her face for the first time. She took a step back. Well, your daughter shouldn't have. Don't, I said sharply. Don't you finish that sentence. Neighbor phones were out now. Recording. Every angle. Every word Karen had spat. Every hateful expression she wore. Everything. I scooped Emily carefully into my arms. She whimpered again as her arm moved, and I felt another wave of rage pulse through me. We're going to the ER, I said, and when we're done, I'll be back for your statement. Karen's face drained. Why you can't arrest me? I'm part of the HOA board. I stared at her. Lady, that bat is going to cost you far more than your board membership. As I carried Emily toward the truck, neighbors parted like a path was forming for justice itself. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Some whispered, she finally crossed the line. Some looked at Karen with pure disgust. But one thing was clear. The neighborhood had finally seen the real her. And she knew it. As I buckled Emily into the passenger seat, her tear-filled eyes looked at me. Daddy, am I in trouble? My heart cracked. No, sweetheart, I whispered, brushing her hair back. You didn't do anything wrong. And I promise you she'll never touch you again. I closed the door gently, took a breath, and looked back toward Karen, still standing in the yard, gripping the bat, trembling now. This wasn't over. Not even close. The drive to the hospital felt like an eternity, even though it was only 12 minutes. Emily sat cradling her broken arm with her good hand, her little fingers trembling every time the truck hit a small bump. I kept glancing at her between stoplights, fighting the urge to break the steering wheel in half. I've seen broken bones before. I've been a sheriff long enough, but seeing it on my child, that hits a part of your soul you can't describe. At the ER, nurses rushed her in the moment they saw the angle of her arm. One of them asked, "What happened?" And when I said she was struck with a baseball bat, every head in the room snapped toward me. Shock, anger, sympathy. It was the look healthcare workers get when they've seen too many innocent kids hurt by adults who should have known better. Emily squeezed my hand and whispered, "Daddy, it hurts." My voice cracked when I said, "I know, sweetheart. I'm right here." When the doctor confirmed it was a clean break, thanks to her falling sideways as Karen swung, I felt a small wave of relief. It could have been worse. Much worse. A direct hit to her head, her ribs, her spine. No parent wants to imagine those possibilities, but in that moment they haunted me. While Emily was taken for x-rays, I stepped into the hallway and finally checked my phone. 5 missed calls. 11 texts, all from neighbors, and 3 videos, all capturing what Karen had done from start to finish. Perfect angles, clear audio, direct evidence. I didn't need anything else. But what caught my attention wasn't the videos, it was the HOA group chat. Karen was melting down. Message after message from her, all caps, frantic. That man attacked me. His child was damaging HOA property. I had to defend our community. He's trying to frame me because he's a sheriff. Someone called aboard. Dozens of neighbors replied, shutting her down immediately. We have video of everything. You hit a child with a bat, Karen. You're done. Police are already talking about it. The most painful one to read came from my next-door neighbor, an older woman named Diane. That little girl has the purest heart. Shame on you. And then, one message from Karen popped up. I know my rights, and I'm not going down for this. I exhaled slowly. That line, that tone, I'd heard it before. People who knew they were guilty, but believed they were untouchable. HOA power had inflated Karen for years. She wasn't ready to face reality, but she was about to. Just as I was pocketing my phone, a nurse approached. Sheriff, your daughter is asking for you. My chest tightened. I followed her back. Emily lay on a small bed, her arms splinted and supported, her eyes red but calm. Daddy, she whispered, are you mad at me? I knelt beside her. No, baby. I'm mad at the woman who hurt you. You did nothing wrong. She nodded, but her lip trembled. She was yelling at me. She said I was a bad kid. That hurt more than the broken arm. You're the best kid I know, I told her softly. And what she did was wrong, and she will face consequences. Emily finally relaxed and fell asleep. The moment her breathing settled, I stood, walked to the nurse's desk, and said the words I had been holding back. I need to make an official report. The nurse nodded with understanding. We'll take pictures for evidence, and social services will want these documented. Take your time. I filled out everything: time, location, witness names, Emily's symptoms, angle of the injury, exact statements Karen made. It was the most painful report I had ever written, but the most important. When I stepped outside to make the arrest call, my deputy marshal was already ringing me. Boss, you need to see this. What now? Karen just called 911. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. She's claiming you attacked her. She's demanding someone higher up come out. Says you threatened her life with your badge. I exhaled a slow, heavy breath. And you believe her? Marshall actually laughed. Sir, we've got half the neighborhood sending us videos. Good. Have a patrol car meet me at the HOA entrance, I said. This ends today. Before I hung up, I asked, where is she now? Marshall hesitated. Sir, she's in the street, with the bat, screaming at cars. Of course she was. Karen wasn't panicking because she was innocent. She was panicking because she finally realized she wasn't invincible. HOA titles don't protect you from felony charges. And now that she knew who I was, her delusion had turned into full-blown desperation. When Emily was cleared for discharge, I lifted her gently and carried her to the truck. She rested her head on my shoulder, exhausted. I whispered, I'll protect you. Always. As we pulled out of the hospital parking lot, I saw a police cruiser heading toward our neighborhood, lights off, but moving with purpose. They were going for Karen. Good. She wasn't just going to face me as a neighbor or a father. She would face me as the sheriff she had just challenged. And as I drove back toward our street, something inside me settled. This wasn't the breaking point. This was the beginning of justice. As I turned into our subdivision, I could already feel something was off. The quiet, manicured streets of our HOA neighborhood were usually calm, too calm, thanks to Karen's obsessive rules. But tonight, the entire place felt charged, like a thunderstorm waiting to break. Cars were stopped in the street. Neighbors stood in clusters. Phones were raised everywhere. And in the center of it all, Karen. She was pacing in circles near the HOA sign, baseball bat still in hand, her hair a mess, her face red and twisted with rage. Every few seconds she jabbed the bat toward an approaching vehicle, forcing drivers to back up or detour around her. And every time they did, she yelled something new. "You can't arrest me. I run this neighborhood." "They're lying. All of them. That child attacked me. This whole community is corrupt." Her voice echoed through the cul-de-sac like a siren none of us wanted to hear. A patrol car was parked nearby, lights softly pulsing, but not yet fully activated. Two officers, Marshal and Deputy Alvarez, stood at a cautious distance, trying to de-escalate without provoking her. "Ma'am, you need to put the bat down," Marshal called calmly. "We're not here to hurt you, but you can't walk around threatening people." Karen whipped around and screamed. "Threatening? I'm protecting this neighborhood. I'm the only one keeping order while that sheriff lets criminals walk free." She didn't know I had pulled up behind her yet. I parked the truck, glanced at sleeping Emily, gently touched her cheek, and whispered, "I'll be right back." I locked the doors, stepped out, and closed them with a quiet click. Heads turned toward me immediately. The atmosphere shifted, like everyone knew the real confrontation was about to begin. Karen did, too. She froze mid-rant, her eyes snapping toward the sound of my door. The moment she saw me, her expression flickered. Fear, confusion, then anger all swirling into one storm. "You," she screeched, pointing the bat at me. "You stay away. You don't get to come near me, after what you did." I kept my voice steady. "Karen, drop the bat." "You assaulted me," she yelled, her voice cracking. "You threatened me with your badge." "Karen," I said calmly, "I wasn't even near you. And the entire neighborhood watched you strike a 10-year-old child, a reckless child, a troublemaker, a lawbreaker." Her voice was shaking now, not from confidence, from unraveling. By this time, almost every neighbor had stepped out. They lined the sidewalks like witnesses to a showdown. Some whispered, some filmed, some crossed their arms, tired of a reign of chaos. Marshall stepped closer. "Ma'am, we need to talk about the assault." Karen whirled on him. "Assault? Assault? That man's daughter was ruining the HOA flowers. I gave her a warning. She didn't listen. Discipline is necessary." "You broke her arm, Karen," Alvarez said coldly. "That's not discipline. That's a felony." "It's community enforcement," she shrieked. I stepped forward. "Karen, put the bat down. This is your last warning." She backed up, her grip tightening, her voice turning almost desperate. "Don't come closer. You can't arrest me. I'm on the HOA board. I can replace you. I can call the mayor. I can—" "This isn't HOA business," I said. "This is state law." She swallowed hard. Reality started to claw its way in. "You think you can intimidate me because you're the sheriff?" she whispered. "You think your badge makes you powerful? That's nothing. Nothing. I run this street." "No," I said quietly, "you've ruled it with fear. And tonight it ends." The crowd murmured. Karen's eyes darted around. She noticed cameras recording, neighbors judging, her power slipping. Her voice trembled. "You're all turning on me? After everything I've done for this neighborhood?" "You've done nothing but scare people," Diane said firmly from her porch. "We've had enough." Karen's breathing hitched. Her world, the one built on control, intimidation, fake authority, was collapsing in real time. She suddenly raised the bat again, pointing it right at my chest. "If anyone comes near me, I swear I'll—" Before she could finish, Alvarez stepped forward with the clean, practiced precision we trained for. He positioned himself to her right, ready if she moved. I kept my voice low. Cold. Certain. "Karen, you're holding a weapon. You've already injured a child. Put it down or we will disarm you." "You can't," she screamed. "I'm the victim." "You attacked a minor," Marshall said. "Multiple witnesses. Multiple videos. EMS report. Hospital documentation. It's over." That finally did it. Her shoulders sagged. Her grip loosened. The bat dropped, hitting the asphalt with a dull, heavy thud. When she lifted her eyes to mine, they weren't angry anymore. They were terrified. "Please," she whispered, "don't arrest me. I didn't mean for her arm to break." But sympathy was gone. Way past gone. I nodded at Marshall. He stepped forward and said the words Karen had never imagined would be spoken to her. "Karen Wright, you're under arrest for aggravated assault on a minor." The neighborhood exhaled collectively like a monster had finally been slain. Alvarez secured the bat. Marshall gently took Karen's hands and cuffed them. Karen burst into tears, loud, dramatic sobs, but no one moved to comfort her. The Karen era was over, and everybody knew it. As they guided her toward the patrol car, she twisted around and screamed at me through tears. "This isn't fair. You ruined my life. You did this. You." The car door closed, silencing her. I inhaled slowly, letting the tension drain from my chest. Justice had begun. But this story wasn't finished. This wasn't just about a broken arm. This was about a neighborhood breaking free. About a child reclaiming her safety. About a bully finally facing consequences. And tomorrow, the real battle would begin at the courthouse. The next morning, the whole neighborhood felt different, quieter, lighter, almost like someone had lifted a heavy fog off the street. For the first time in years, people stepped outside without looking over their shoulders. No one worried about Karen popping out with a clipboard, snapping photos, or threatening fines over harmless things. But beneath that calm, there was tension. Everyone knew today was the day Karen would face formal charges, and everyone was waiting to see how far she would fall. Inside our home, Emily sat comfortably on the couch, her broken arm wrapped in a fresh cast covered with little drawings I'd made to cheer her up, stars, hearts, her favorite cartoon cat. She was trying to smile through the pain, but every now and then, I caught her staring at her cast with a mixture of fear and confusion, as if she still couldn't believe an adult in her neighborhood had done this to her. While I made her breakfast, she looked up at me and said softly, "Daddy, why do grown-ups act mean?" The question hit harder than any punch I'd ever taken on duty. "Not all grown-ups," I told her gently. "But some people, they don't know how to treat others with kindness. And sometimes they hurt people because they think they're above the rules." Emily picked at her cereal. "Is she going to apologize?" I paused. "I don't know, sweetie, but she will be held accountable." She nodded, though her eyes still carried that ache that broke me every time I saw it. A knock on my door pulled me from the moment. It was Marshall. "Morning, boss," he said, stepping inside. His expression was serious, too serious for a routine arrest follow-up. I motioned for him to speak, quietly so Emily wouldn't hear. "What's going on?" He handed me a file. "You need to read this." Something big came up. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. Karen had filed a counter-complaint, not just against me, but against Emily. She claimed Emily had attacked her. She claimed I had threatened her with departmental power. She claimed the entire neighborhood had conspired to frame her because she was enforcing rules nobody liked. But that wasn't the twist. The twist was what Marshall said next. She hired a lawyer. And not just any lawyer. She hired John Garrison. I froze. Garrison was notorious, a slick, manipulative attorney who specialized in flipping assault cases on their head, twisting narratives, and weaponizing loopholes. The man had built an entire career defending the indefensible. He didn't care about justice. He cared about winning. "He's already filing motions," Marshall added, "claiming you acted out of emotional bias and that you should be removed from the case." A cold wave crawled up my spine. Karen was dangerous with an HOA rulebook. With Garrison behind her, she could be nuclear. I clenched the file. She assaulted a child. There are witnesses. There's video. The evidence is clear. Marshall hesitated. "Yeah, but Garrison is claiming the videos were edited." My pulse spiked. Edited? The footage was raw, untouched, shot by half the neighbors. "He's arguing the clips don't show what happened before the swing," Marshall said. "He's pushing a narrative that Emily provoked her." My jaw tightened. A child, a 10-year-old, provoked a grown woman with a baseball bat? The absurdity burned through me. "But here's the big one," Marshall continued. "Garrison filed an emergency injunction claiming that you as sheriff have a personal conflict and therefore the case should be transferred to an outside jurisdiction." I understood now. This was never about innocence, never about the truth. It was about buying time, creating confusion. Forcing delays. Emily tiptoed into the hallway. I quickly changed my tone. "Hey, sweetheart," I said with a soft smile. "Want to draw something together later?" She nodded and went back to the couch. Marshall leaned in closer, voice low. "Boss, she's going for full manipulation mode, turning herself into the victim, using legal pressure to slow us down. She's desperate." "Because she knows she's guilty," I said. He nodded. "Exactly." The twist wasn't that Karen was fighting back. The twist was that she was going further than anyone expected, attacking, manipulating, twisting the truth, even after hurting a child. "I'll handle it," I said, every step. But before Marshall left, he hesitated again. "There's one more thing." I frowned. "What now?" He pulled out a printed email. "It's from the HOA board," he said. "A meeting has been scheduled today. Emergency session. They're voting on whether to remove Karen permanently." My eyebrows lifted. Good. She deserves it. "That's not the issue," he said. "The issue is..." Garrison emailed them too. "He's threatening a lawsuit if they vote her out before trial." My blood ran cold. Karen wasn't just fighting the charges. She was trying to hold onto the one thing she'd ever controlled, the HOA, the power she used to dominate everyone, the title that made her feel important. And she was willing to burn the entire neighborhood to keep it. "This is going to get ugly," Marshall warned. "Let it," I said. She already made it ugly the moment she touched my daughter. As he left, Emily called from the living room. "Daddy?" "Yes, baby." "Are we safe?" I sat beside her and pulled her close with her good arm, my voice steady and warm. "You're safe," I told her. "Nothing is ever going to hurt you again. I promise." But inside, I knew the truth. Karen wasn't done. She wasn't backing down. And the fight coming next would shock everyone. Not because of what Karen would do, but because of what someone else in the neighborhood was about to reveal. A secret. A witness we didn't know we had. A truth that would flip the entire case upside down. The twist was coming. The HOA clubhouse had never been so crowded. People who hadn't attended a single meeting in 5 years were suddenly squeezed together shoulder to shoulder, whispering, murmuring, holding printed screenshots of Karen's meltdown from every angle. The board sat stiff and uncomfortable, like they suddenly realized Karen's madness had been their problem long before it became mine. And in the back of the room, wearing a slick charcoal suit and a smug smile, sat John Garrison, Karen's toxic legal bulldog. He leaned back confidently, tapping an expensive pen against his briefcase. He already believed he'd won, that a few legal threats and half-baked claims of video evidence manipulation were enough to scare people. He didn't understand this neighborhood. He didn't understand what Karen had done. And he sure as hell didn't understand what was about to happen. I entered the room quietly, not as the sheriff, but as a father. Emily was safe at home with my sister, coloring on the couch. She didn't know what was happening, and she didn't need to. This fight was mine. The board president cleared his throat. "We are here to address the emergency matter regarding HOA member Karen Wright." Garrison interrupted immediately. "Objection." The entire room turned toward him with disgust. "This meeting," he continued, "is a violation of my client's rights. If the board proceeds today, we will file a civil lawsuit for wrongful termination of HOA privileges, defamation, harassment, and emotional distress." People groaned. The president, a stressed-looking man named Howard, rubbed his temples. "Sir, this is not a courtroom. We are allowed to vote." "She is traumatized," Garrison said, loud enough for the room to hear. "She has been attacked, outnumbered, and villainized based on edited cell phone clips and community bias. She acted in self-defense against a destructive child." A voice exploded from the far side of the room. "Destructive? You're defending a grown woman who broke a child's arm." All eyes turned. It was Diane, the elderly neighbor who'd always been too afraid to speak up before. But not today. Garrison smirked. "Ma'am, unless you are a certified forensic analyst or eyewitness." "I am an eyewitness," Diane snapped, stepping forward with a trembling hand clutching her phone. "And I have something none of you have seen." The room fell silent. Even my heart froze for a moment. She pressed play. A video filled the air, not shaky, not chaotic, not zoomed in from a distance. Crystal clear. Perfect angle. Perfect audio. From her porch camera, the one directly facing our front lawn, the footage showed everything. Emily standing near the flowers. Karen storming across the grass with the bat raised. My daughter backing up, hands up, scared. Karen screaming, "Kids like you don't belong here." And then, the swing, the hit, Emily collapsing. The room gasped collectively. It recorded the entire thing, Diane said, her voice cracking. I was too afraid to show it last night because I didn't want Karen to come after me. But this little girl didn't deserve what happened to her. I swallowed hard. This was the moment everything changed. The HOA board stared, slack-jawed, horrified. Neighbors covered their mouths, some crying, some furious. Even Garrison froze, his confidence cracking like thin ice. Karen's voice on the footage was undeniable. Her intent was undeniable. Her violence was undeniable. The room erupted. That's assault. She should be in prison. She terrorized this neighborhood for years. She went after a child. Howard slammed his hand on the table. Order, order. But the room wasn't calming. Because the recording wasn't done. The camera had picked up the moment I ran outside. Emily begging for help. Karen pointing the bat at me and saying, "She broke the rules. Kids like her don't belong here." That line, it set the room on fire. A murmur turned into outrage. People who once stayed silent now stood up with years' worth of bottled frustration. This woman fined my son for drawing chalk on the sidewalk. She told my daughter she was too loud walking home. She tried to ban bikes. She threatened to tow my car for being 1 inch over the line. She yelled at me for leaving a pumpkin out too long after Halloween. For the first time ever, the community united, not out of fear of Karen, but against her. Garrison tried to regain control. This video proves nothing about. The entire room shouted him down. It proves everything. She assaulted a kid. She lied to the police. She manipulated everyone. Howard stood and lifted a sheet of paper. His voice was steady. "We'll now vote on the removal of Karen Wright from the HOA board, permanent ban from meetings, fine recommendation, and referral to legal authorities." Objection. Garrison roared, slamming his fist on the table. Howard didn't blink. You don't get a say. Votes were cast by hand. A sea of raised arms. Dozens of them. Unanimous. 0 objections. Not a single hand lifted for Karen. Garrison stared, stunned, as if he couldn't comprehend losing control of the room. But the twist wasn't the vote. The twist was what happened next. From the back of the room, someone else stood up, a man I didn't recognize. He walked forward, nervous, wringing his hands. I have something too, he said quietly. The room hushed. I used to work for Karen. I did maintenance on her backyard, fixed her sprinkler systems, things like that. His voice trembled. She made me sign non-disclosure agreements. She said if I talked, she'd ruin me. My eyes narrowed. Talk about what? He took a shaky breath, then said the words that would blow the case open. She told me last week that she hated your daughter, that she wanted to teach her a lesson for touching the flowers. She said she'd handle it personally. The room went dead silent. She planned it, Diane whispered, and in that moment, the truth hit every single person like a hammer. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a sudden burst of anger. Karen intended to hurt a child, and the community finally understood the monster she had always been. The weeks that followed felt like watching a storm slowly break apart after tearing through an entire town. There was damage, emotional, physical, psychological, but there was also sunlight finally cutting through the clouds. A new calm, a new beginning. And for the first time in years, our neighborhood felt like a place where people could finally breathe again. Karen's arrest went viral locally. The footage Diane provided was handed directly to the district attorney. Every frame of her raising the bat, every hateful word she spat, every swing, undeniable evidence. Garrison tried every trick in the book: self-defense, misinterpretation, child provocation. But the video, the witnesses, and the maintenance workers' testimony crushed any illusion he tried to create. 2 weeks later, the judge denied Karen's bail. The courtroom echoed with a single powerful message: a child's safety matters more than anyone's ego. When the verdict was read, Karen didn't scream. She didn't fight. She didn't rant about rules or HOA power. She just stared forward, hollow-eyed, like she finally understood the world she tried so desperately to control had moved on without her. Emily didn't attend the hearing. She didn't need to. But when I came home and told her, the judge said what she did was wrong. She looked at me with her gentle little eyes and asked, "So no one else will get hurt now?" "No one will. I promised. Not ever again." Her shoulders relaxed. A tiny smile appeared. That moment mattered more than any legal victory. But justice didn't stop at the courtroom. The HOA underwent a transformation no one thought possible. Without Karen policing every breath people took, kids began playing on the sidewalks again. Chalk drawings covered driveways like colorful stories. Families walked dogs without being stalked or scolded. People waved at each other instead of flinching at the sight of a blonde bob and a clipboard. The neighborhood wasn't perfect, but it was finally human. One Saturday morning, as I stood on my porch watching Emily try to draw with her cast-covered arm, Diane walked over holding a small envelope. "My husband and we wanted to help her feel better," she said shyly. Inside were dozens of stickers, animals, stars, flowers, little things Emily loved. Emily gasped softly and hugged Diane gently with a good arm. "She's such a sweet child," Diane whispered, her eyes misty, "and she didn't deserve a second of what happened." "No kid does," I said quietly. In the days that followed, neighbors kept showing up, dropping off snacks, cards, gift baskets. Some just came to say sorry for not speaking up sooner, for letting Karen run wild for so long. I didn't blame them. Fear makes people quiet. Bullies survive because good people stay silent. And that was the message I wanted the story to end with. But before I could deliver it, something happened that tied everything together. A new HOA election was held. Unanimous votes again, this time for a new board, new rules, new leadership. Rules that protected families, not terrorized them. Rules that encouraged kindness, not control. Rules that finally made sense. Emily was sitting beside me during the meeting, drawing hearts on her cast, her little tongue sticking out as she focused. A woman across the room smiled at her. "How's your arm, sweetheart?" Emily held it up proudly. "It's okay. I'm getting stronger." The woman laughed softly, and something warm spread through the room. A neighborhood once suffocated by fear was now united by compassion. Later that evening, as I tucked Emily into bed, she looked at me with sleepy eyes. "Daddy, am I brave?" I felt a lump in my throat. "You're the bravest kid I know." She smiled, turned on her side carefully, and whispered, "Good, because I want to help other kids too." My heart nearly broke from pride. I kissed her forehead, turned off the light, and stepped into the hallway. The house was quiet, peaceful, safe, and for the first time since everything happened, I let myself breathe fully, because justice wasn't just served, it resonated. It changed people. It protected the innocent. It taught a neighborhood to stand together instead of alone. Now, before the story ends, I want to speak directly to you, the viewer. Sometimes the smallest voice belongs to the strongest soul. Sometimes the ones who need protecting the most are the quietest among us. And sometimes justice begins with one brave person saying, "Enough." If this story touched you or made you think about how we treat kids, neighbors, or anyone who can't defend themselves, leave a comment telling me what city you're watching from. And if you want more powerful, emotional, real-life stories like this, comment your city, like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And make sure to subscribe, because your support helps these messages reach more people and reminds the world that kindness is stronger than cruelty. Thank you for watching. Take care of your kids, take care of each other, and I'll see you in the next story.